Hi, everyone. Welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory. And you just saw all of the thanks that were given over the last week as we started to create this notion of thanks living, being grateful for the things in our lives, and using our art to investigate them, record them, and just honor them in some way. So thank you all for sharing your gratitude, the things that you're grateful for over the last year. And they were beautiful, they were interesting, they were moving, so it's really nice to see. Thank you all for joining me. You see a few new faces who I'm unfamiliar with, and lots of familiar ones too. So thanks for coming back and getting ready to do some more drawing. It's funny because we are getting ready to do a workshop this weekend, which I wanted to just tell you about in a second. But thinking about this workshop, it happens to tie in with this documentary series that has been on Disney Plus. It might have been available in other places, but it's a documentary about the Beatles. And it's edited and directed by Peter Jackson, who is of Lord of the Rings fame. And I'm going to talk a bit about it because the Beatles they're not my favorite band, not by a long stretch. In fact, I have a certain amount of aversion to the Beatles, but I'll talk a bit about that too. But they are, I think, very important, significant people in our culture. And I found what I've watched so far of this documentary series to be interesting just because it's about the creative process and about collaboration. And those are things that really I find interesting. And certainly the Beatles were very, very creative people. There's no doubt about that. So, yes. So let me just talk a bit about this workshop. It is coming up, and it is called Urban Sketching in the Home of the Beatles, and it happens to be this Saturday. Another reason to think about the Beatles. It is a fantastic workshop of what I've seen of it, and it is being brought to us by Ian Fennelly, who is a Liverpudlian, and of course, so are the Beatles. So let's just have a quick glance at what this workshop is going to be about, and then we'll get on to doing some drawing.
Welcome to Liverpool, and today with Sketchbook School we are bringing you a new workshop. It's all about trying to make sense of a really, really busy space. So we're in Matthew Street, which is the home of the Beatles. This is where it all started. The Cavern Club is just down there. And this workshop that we're going to be doing for you is going to be broken down into lots and lots of steps. Starting out with the big shapes, and then going in with the colour, going in with the detail, and everything's going to be layered and everything's going to be fully explained for you. It's going to be super, super fun. I really hope you enjoy it, guys. And thank you so much for joining me.
So that's coming up, and that is going to be this Saturday. So I hope that you'll be joining me. I know that the members of Spark will be. There's a lot of new members to Spark, and this is going to be probably your first free workshop. So that's exciting. Yes, John Cromer, everybody's very agitated by your technical issues. Anyway. So this is that documentary, Get Back. Gather from the comments that a lot of you have seen it. It's really long. It was, I think, 50 hours of footage that was then cut down to, I don't know, however many hundreds of hours. It seems like it's more than 50 hours long already. I've managed to endure about 2/3 or half of the first episode, and it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting to see Get Back actually. Is it Get Back? I think that comes to life. You have this feeling of Paul McCartney is just sort of fiddling and twiddling with his guitar, and suddenly the song starts to emerge and grow and manifest. And I think we've all had that feeling where you kind of have an idea and it's sort of flowing into you and it's growing and it's becoming. And it's fascinating to see that, something that we're really all familiar with, right? These iconic songs of the Beatles, and to see it all come together, and to be reminded of how that happens to us all the time too. So that was, to me, the highlight so far of this whole thing. Again, I'm not a Beatles fan particularly. Obviously, the Beatles have been around as long as I have been. The Beatles first began more or less the year that I was born, so they've been this in the background of my life, which means that, bad things that happened to me in my life were scored by the Beatles too. So I think that that is part of my problem. All right, so Nina's asking about will the workshop be replayed? Every workshop we do is recorded. It is recorded, and if you sign up for it, even if you can't make it on Saturday morning, you'll have access to the recording forever. So yes, if you miss it, you can join us anyway. What else are you guys talking about? Yes, Baron Tyson McCaffrey is also talking about this creative process that's so fascinating to see. The sort of just these things are kind of coming together. There are other times where it feels like, okay, they've done a lot of work off camera and they're kind of bringing stuff in and working on it and refining it. But yeah, I mean, I think the album that I have the most trouble with is Abbey Road, which is the one they're sort of working on, and there are just a lot of songs in there that make me deeply anxious. So I don't know. I should probably go back to The Shrink and find out what the story is with that, or just avoid listening to the Beatles, which I've kind of done a lot. So anyway, I can't avoid my fascination with this creative process. There's a movie called Some Kind of Monster that I just recently rewatched, which is about Metallica, another band that I'm not massively a fan of, but I'm certainly willing to listen. I'll listen to any kind of music, and Metallica is in the process of breaking up. They're about to break up when this movie is being made, and it took actually a year and a half to film this documentary. And they have a psychiatrist who's working with them and doing group therapy with them. And I kept thinking as I was watching this Beatles thing, if the Beatles had a shrink sitting with them, some kind of counselor, maybe these guys, who are all pretty young, I mean, these guys are my son's age, they're in their late 20s, mid to late 20s. If they'd had somebody who came in and said, you're not just like, hey, we're going to force you to make a movie, we're going to force you to write an album, but instead said, guys, let's work through some of your conflicts and let's get you back on track as a creative entity and remind you of how much fun you have had working together. The results might have been pretty different, but they weren't. As we know, that this is sort of like the swan song of the Beatles, and not long after this, they broke up once and for all. So, John is asking, I downloaded the picture for the Beatles workshop. Should we sketch it out before the workshop? I'm a slow sketcher, so I worry I'll fall behind. Don't worry, John. Watch the videos. Watch everything that we've set up for you. We'll do all the work together. If you want to sketch it out beforehand, you can. If you want to re-sketch it out, it's up to you. But if you are required or recommended to do anything, we would recommend it there in the class that you've already had access to. So, all right, yes. Nina preferred ABBA. Yeah, a lot of people do. I was probably more of a David Bowie fan, if anything, but I've always been a jazz fan, and jazz to me is the greatest example of improvisation and group collaboration. Every time you hear jazz, it is that. So that is my favorite thing to listen to. Okay, so today, and actually, speaking of Ian Fennelly, let me show you this. Ian did a drawing of the Beatles. He just did it to announce our workshop to his on his Instagram. And I love this because you don't see Ian drawing people that much. And it's great to see an example of his drawing of people, but it still feels like an Ian Fennelly, doesn't it? It has all those trademark things that Ian does so well, combining watercolor with ink and line, but also this sort of sense of energy and looseness. So it's going to be really fun to do this workshop with him. And let's let this be our inspiration, our first piece of inspiration. I've been looking at Beatles stuff, like the way that people have depicted the Beatles in preparation, thinking about today. It's interesting to see how some artists have depicted the Beatles. This is obviously from Yellow Submarine, an animated version of the Beatles. And again, this is something we talk about a lot here on Draw With Me, is reductivism. Taking things that we see that are complex perhaps, or that we would tend to go and look at in a very representational terms, and trying to reduce them to their essence so that we can understand better what's important about this image that tells us immediately this is the Beatles. Everybody who knows the Beatles would immediately know not only that this is the group, but you could identify George and Paul and John and Ringo. You can immediately identify them, even though they're not wearing, clothes that identify them as such. And they are obviously very, very simple in the way that they're drawn. But that is, I think, pretty cool. And that is an interesting thing to look at. And this is bizarre. Have you ever seen this? This was the Beatles, not Yellow Submarine, but there was actually a kind of a cartoon series of the Beatles. And this is how they were depicted there. And again, this is sort of like a earlier version of them, I guess. Again, very reductive, but totally identifiable. I mean, they've put the names on these little drawings here. You don't need them. You know exactly who everybody is here. And I guess, is Paul McCartney is left-handed? Yeah, I guess he is. So that's another depiction of it. I've found a couple of others. This is sort of a modern version. I thought was kind of cool. This is sort of like late 60s Beatles, done in almost like a Hanna-Barbera style that I thought was kind of cool, by Kevin Bulk. And then this version, which is almost like a Simpsons kind of version, Cartoon Network. But again, you can identify them. I mean, look at Ringo, totally abstracted into almost like a weird turtle, totally recognizable as who they are. Although John and George, not so sure. So yeah, let's have a look at all that. By the way, if you have any customer service questions, please don't discuss them here. Please email JJ and she will help you. Yes, carrying on. Sorry, just glancing at the comments. So yes, so this, I've been looking at various pictures of the Beatles because I was thinking I want to draw each of the Beatles individually, but I wanted to basically start with a group photo, and there's like every group photo, one or two of them doesn't look quite right. So I just want to show you through some of the reference that I've pulled, because I might have to jump around between different pieces of reference. So this is obviously the Sgt. Pepper's era. Love this clothing, and I might use this in some of what I'm going to be drawing. So we'll come back to that. This is sort of classic 1964-5, I would say. They look a little tan, strangely. And you can see, but again, I mean, look at George. George tends to look kind of strange in a lot of photographs, particularly with his teeth. So I'm not sure if that's the one I would want to draw from yet, but we'll see. Here's another one of them. I bet you this is in Berlin, judging by Paul's leather jacket. But again, like, John looks a bit strange. George, you can see his sort of vampire teeth a bit strange. Here's another one. Again, George looking off. And this sort of sultry one. So yeah, so this is a whole range of different ones that we have. And let's try it out. Let's try it out. I'm going to draw on the iPad today. Haven't done that in a while with you guys, but I miss drawing on the iPad. And this is the kind of thing I like drawing on the iPad. I like doing iPad-ish things with here. In fact, as I was waiting for you to show up, I did this. Sort of like a hybrid version of John with sort of a, I think his bangs are too short there. So yeah, as usual, there's a lot of noise going on in my house. I just can't avoid it. I can't stop these people from doing stuff. I've given up. I figured you guys will just accept it. So yeah, it's just stuff. One of these days, I'll have like a giant studio that's soundproofed and that nobody's allowed to come into, but right now, no. Yeah, so yeah, it's true. Chewing gum knows. Anyway, let's draw some other ones. You guys ready? If you got your stuff together, you're not going to just watch me, right? You're going to be draw with me so we can all draw together. Draw the Beatles in whatever form we want to draw them in. Whatever medium you'd like to use. Let's get some reference back up here. And let's go through some of these images and make a decision. We're not going to draw from a drawing, but let's start with Paul. And let's try this one. And make him a bit bigger. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Paul. Paul is sort of pinkish person. Might give, yeah. Paul has sort of a strong jaw, right? That's right, but he has this sort of the cheeks too, right? He's got kind of the roundish face. And then he comes down to this sort of more of a point. Is that correct? Now let me try it again. Okay, that seems about right. And I'm going to give him sort of biggish ears. And then the so-called mop top. Needs to be a bit neater, or else it looks a bit kind of Dumb and Dumberish. Yes, there's a reference I hadn't thought to bring in. Yeah, all right, so let's just fill him in, give him some skin. Bit of skin in the game. There we go. I'm interested in other people who are ambivalent or even dislike the Beatles. Like, what's going on with you that you think that? Like, why do you have an aversion? Because again, as I've admitted, I do have this aversion. What is your aversion about? Do you think it has to do with when you listen to the Beatles? Like, did you have like an older sibling who kind of molded your opinion about it? Or something happened to you when you were listening to the Beatles? Or, I mean, because musically they're fine. I don't think that there's, I don't think they're the most amazing music to listen to, let's say, but, we all have these strong memories about the Beatles. It's impossible to escape. So, what, because I think that's so much part of making art, right? Is what is our association with what we're drawing? What is it? What is the meaning behind it? I always remember my second stepfather saying to me, there are two kinds of families. Families who like the Beatles, the families who like the Rolling Stones. We like the Rolling Stones. Who do you like? I was like, I guess I like the Rolling Stones. So yeah, I guess I like the Rolling Stones. I do like the Rolling Stones, actually. I always have. But I don't think that's the only reason. So can you do this kind of drawing without those memories flooding in? I don't really have memories of drawing the Beatles. I have memories of hearing them. So Yellow Submarine. Yes. So, I mean, I vaguely remember Yellow Submarine too. I didn't see the movie. I still haven't seen it, but even that song kind of gives me the chills. Boy. I mean, I know that Jen says her drawing looks like Kosha. It's true. Mine looks a bit like Kosha too. Kosha has that sort of mop top hairstyle quite a lot. Yeah, like my wife can't listen to music from the 90s. Hates it. Hates anything from the 90s. This entire decade of very diverse music. Basically, she doesn't like to have it on in the car. All right. This needs some help. I'm gonna start mucking around with them a bit because I'm not feel like I'm getting too realistic. That was never my intention. He's starting to look more and more like Mr. Spock, actually. So, there you have it. I do kind of like these Sergeant Pepper outfits, though. Not sure what inspired that particular decision. Take these sort of little, like, weird, what do they call them? Scrambled eggs. That's what they call all that stuff on there. When you have a lot of stuff on your epaulets. All right, well, sort of do. All right, I'm kind of done with you now, Paul. Moving on. All right, let's try somebody else. And let's try another piece of photography reference. See, that's actually a better image of Paul. Probably should have used that. How about this Ringo, though? I like Ringo's sort of little curls at the back. I'm going to get a bit crazier, too, with the colors. Maybe we'll put Ringo in a proper suit. Make him a bit more boyish. It is sort of interesting in watching this documentary that we were talking about before that Ringo appears to be basically a guest in the whole thing. He's just like, yep, whatever you want me to do, here I am. Doesn't really seem to have any opinions about anything. Seems sort of sitting around behind the scenes in his drum kit. Just doesn't really. He feels like he's a freelancer, just there to, session musician, just there to, play if they need him, which is interesting because we don't really think of it that way. He's just waiting around for a Yellow Submarine, I guess. give him like a Reservoir Dogs kind of look. Ringo's more interesting to draw. Just because he has sort of like that. His features are more interesting. I think. He has so smaller eyes. Or does he? Maybe they're not smaller. He certainly has these kind of bags under his eyes, rings under his eyes. Hence Ringo. No, I don't think that's the reason he's known as Ringo, because he had a lot of rings on his fingers, not rings under his eyes. Come on, Gregory. That's really going too far. There's a lot of people out there who love Ringo. They can be irate. Get even more hate mail. All right, but now let's have fun with his nose, because is that it? No. That? Maybe. I think that's recognizably Ringo, wouldn't you say? Help me out, people. What do you think? I kind of like that. Sort of largish lips he has. I mean, you can tell who it is, right? I think you can tell. You can tell that this is what I apparently thought I was doing. No, that's too. Sort of. Sort of. Oh, I accidentally made his shirt green, but I kind of like that idea. I don't think I want it green, but I do kind of like this idea. Maybe a bit of color in it. All right, well, vaguely. What do you think? It's the ears. No, is that the Spock thing? Okay. Yes. All right, fair enough. We've achieved adequacy. I think this could be made nicer with a bit more time, you know? Add some more tone, do some other stuff. Could be nice. Could be. Let's try that out. Okay. You know, good enough for government work. Let's try another one. Let's try grouping those guys. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Let's go over here and Let's have a sip, a libation. All right, so now, John. Have I done John? Yes, I have. I guess I started by doing John, right? Did Ringo, did Paul, did John. Paul's the worst so far. Yeah, Paul's terrible. Okay. John, I mean, I'll draw George. I'm not hugely excited by it. Let's see if there's some picture that will get me more excited. Not really. What is it about George? How do we make him George? Like, should we give him big? Maybe we give him the vampire teeth. He has kind of a square head. Maybe we do sort of a classic monster version of him. You know, as if he was like one of those Warner Brothers. All right. There's no real reason to be insulting George Harrison, but I think I'm going to anyway, because I have the technology to insult him and make him look sort of like a combination of Frankenstein and Dracula. Again, if you're a big Beatles fan, you're taking umbrage, please understand that it's not that you're wrong about how you feel about the Beatles. It's not. It's that I can't draw them better, so I'm having to resort to this kind of chicanery to make up for my shortcomings. Yes, it's working. It's coming together very, very well. Very well. Sort of ungroomed eyebrows he has. Well, if you're just tuning in, you haven't missed much. All you've missed is some of the Beatles being given the business. You'll see this right now. You're saying, "What the hell?" I'm not that impressed. Just hold on, because this is going to blow you away in a few seconds. Just a few seconds. Trust me. This is that moment, like, when this is that moment when Bob Ross brings out the magic white or whatever it is, and suddenly everything comes together, and you go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I thought that was going to be bad." That is amazing. He's really good, That guy's really good. It's possible that won't happen. In fact, it's looking more and more likely that it won't happen. But, it's this kind of a suspense that makes for really high quality YouTube experiences, or Facebook, if that's how you're watching this. This kind of, whoa, what's going to happen? Like, it's got to be good, because he wouldn't be doing it in front of other people if it wasn't going to be good. So, yeah, it's going to be good. It just hasn't gotten good yet. But it's about to. This is taking every ounce of concentration that I'm capable of mustering. So I'm sorry if I'm not giving you enough running commentary. I wish I was, but honestly, if I don't pay enormous amounts of attention to this, it's not going to turn out incredibly well. In which case, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. So, you know how it is. He's looking kind of like a drum major. That's sort of the look I was going for. Yeah, this is good. All right, now let's get serious. It's time. It's time to make this good. Michelle's looks just like her nan. I like that. That is great. All right. I think that's, isn't that Billy Joel? Will You Still Love Me When I'm 64, which is coming up, by the way. 64. You know, one of those songs that seemed so impossible and yet are now are on the horizon when I'm almost as old as Ringo Starr. Anyway, I think I should go back to this because this maybe I just connected to John Lennon more, but I felt like this is what I wanted to do. That was a struggle. I can't deny it. I had extremely mixed feelings about that, as you could tell. Let's take a break from the Beatles, and let's go to another English person who's more, more my cup of tea. My old buddy Ian Sidaway. Let's just relax and look at something very nice, which is Ian's sketchbook drawings of trees. That's going to be nice. That is going to be nice. And I feel like that's the kind of palate cleanser that I Insidiaway is incredible. It's always a delight to see his stuff. And he's so consistent. Just the fact that he could do an entire book of trees, and each one is just so lovely. Speaking of lovely, I have one more thing to share with you. Here, let me just get it for you from here. Yeah, that's what goes on around here. Never a dull moment with a young critter in the house. That's really fun. So thanks for joining me today. And I hope that you'll join me this weekend. And I promise I'll do much better drawing. Today, just off a bit. Noise, leaf blowers, vacuum cleaners. Harder to get in the flow. Beatles. That's really what it is. I think that's the lesson that I want to tell you today. I can draw any kind of subject. I'm not boasting. I'm not saying, hey, I can draw anything. I'm just saying I'm willing to try and draw just about anything. Sandwiches, toilets, leaf blowers, you name it. But when I get right down to it, I have an emotional response to what I'm drawing. It's not just mechanical. And the more complex it is, the more difficult it is for me to get into the flow. That's why I find drawing self-portraits to be much easier than drawing portraits of other people. Because I don't care that much about what I think about how I represented myself. But somehow it becomes much more of a, struggle. There are a lot of other elements coming in. Not just leaf blowers and vacuum cleaners, but memories and feelings and fears and emotions. And that can be good, don't get me wrong, but it can also be challenging. So, yeah, I gotta get out of here. Thanks for drawing with me today. We'd love to see what you made, so please post it on social media or put it in the Sketchbook School schoolyard, and make sure to tag it #SBS Draw With Me. Thanks very much to our sponsors, Hanamula and Winsor & Newton. And if you'd like some more inspiration for your creativity, here are 3 things that you can do. 1, subscribe to this channel, and you'll know when I make new videos, which I do every week. 2, sign up for my free weekly newsletter. A lot of people seem to like it, maybe because it's free. And 3rd, watch another video.